it won't take anything in. Because it's dealing with stuff. Right?
Yeah. Rita's here.
This one's gonna show up again as the basement. I'll just leave it.
It doesn't say basement. All right, I'm gonna let everybody in.
Got it. Audio. Audio.
Unmute. Becky, you're not gonna unmute, right? You're still muted. I hear a little bit of feedback. Your speaker, got it.
It's not, it's my actual speakers.
Yeah,
That I
yeah,
have to
yeah,
turn
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
not
I
just.
just. That's kind of what I was saying.
Okay.
And if you can make the.
Hi, Rita.
Hello.
We can. You're welcome back. Oh wait.
There's a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I
Is
have.
it me again?
No, it's.
It is me again.
Off. Nope. You have to have yourself.
I have to do all the above.
Sorry.
Okay. And make the town hall the co-host in case we. So Rita, we're trying a little more technology.
Okay.
With this.
Good.
We are actually physically connected to the internet. We're not using Wi-Fi because I think that was some of our problems.
Oh, okay. So what does that mean? That there's a wire now running to?
I've connected a cord to the router physically to the computer.
See all these bungee cords?
Yeah, she
These-
can't see it. Oh, maybe she can.
This one is.
Yeah. So during the last meeting we had, there was an unstable connection, and I realized the modem was sitting on the router. So I got up and I moved the modem. That helped.
Uh-huh.
A couple instability, but now we trying actually connecting physically to the internet.
Okay.
Just because there's so many on here, so many at a time sometimes. So.
Becky, will you get me a list of whoever's in person, please?
Yes.
And if she talks, you should be able to see her, but I'm gonna text.
Okay.
Is anybody else there right now?
Yes, Susie Moser.
And
Okay.
the two of us.
Oh, okay.
I haven't figured out how to make the whole room across the top of the screen, but I think that's only in a different setting. I'll play with that another night. Slow steps. Rita, did you want to share? Or do you want me to, since you?
Why don't you go ahead? Because I think Becky she wasn't sure I was going to be available, so I think she had prepped you.
Yep. Yeah, I just wanted
I'm happy to jump in here. I kind of caught up in the last day or two.
Good for you. So I guess we'll call the select board meeting to order at 5:31, and we can review the agenda. We have public comment first at 5:35. Then we have the review of minutes. But Becky had said we didn't get a set. Was it both of these or just one?
It's both.
It's both.
It's my
Okay.
fault. Geneva has them done and I didn't get them back to her.
That's fine. So we'll skip over that for this session and punt them to next meeting. We have a discussion about the guide board with the historical commission at 5:45. At 6, we have a library trustee joint appointment with the select board. At 6:10, the athletic club has their request for town meeting article for earlier hours. Then a discussion with the select board response to phone calls and other communication. At 6:25, select board check-in on our Concom bylaw regulations. 6:30, joint meeting with the planning board about associate member appointment and an appointment for the CPC from the planning board as a representative for that committee. At 6:40, town administrator updates, and then at 6:45, we go into executive session So does anyone have anything that's popped up? Becky, do you have anything that's popped up in the last?
No, nothing unexpected.
All right. Okay, so let's start with public comment. Remember, please use the raise hand feature if you can. If you're on the phone and don't have that, you can just speak to us. But I think everybody seems to be on a computer. So is there anyone who has a public comment for us? Okay. Not seeing any. And the historical commission isn't time yet. We got a couple minutes for that. Becky, we're skipping the minutes for this time. Do you have any quick update we can fit in the next 7 minutes?
We turned in our LSP, turned in, a quarterly report on PFAS yesterday, well, over this past week. So now we're looking for our annual report will come up on November 18th. And we're hoping, to have the final, we're submitting the final documents to SRF. They have received a number of documents, but their final is coming up. So PFAS is moving right along. The building project, the roof is 100% complete and has, the final checklist has been gone through and every item has been checked off. The culvert project, I checked on this morning. They are working on bringing the groundwater down to the appropriate levels so that they can, within about a week, by the end of next week potentially, they are hoping to install the first pieces of concrete of the structure, of the culvert structure. Any questions?
I guess I just have a question. If they are able to install that concrete structure next week, do you think we're on schedule to get this thing completed by, what was the target date? Mid-November or was it earlier?
Yeah,
Mid-November.
November 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the target date, and yes, if we can hit those dates, we are on schedule.
Okay. Becky, I also saw in your town administrator updates, reviewing the GZA proposal. Was that something that we want to talk about now, or it's 5:35 and I don't think I think the historical commission is here at 5:45.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to do that at the moment?
Okay, let me see. Sorry, I'm checking people in at the same time.
Oh,
Okay.
here, I'll do that. I'll take over that while you do that.
Okay. So, GZA, submitted their proposal to review, what is necessary for the drawdown as well as, the dam, consultants' responsibilities, which are we have to keep up to our annual inspections of the dam report, and then every 2 years we have to submit a report to the Office of Dam Safety. We are current at this point with the report that was submitted in June of 2023. So our next biannual report will be due on the 2025. So the scope of this project that GZA has outlined will cover both of those priorities that the town currently has. We are looking I'm working still in conversation to refocus which items we do first. But I just wanted to make sure the select board was aware of their proposal and that if we have the go-ahead if we reach agreement to work with GZA on this most important project. It's almost October. We've got the drawdown that we need to review and analyze and make sure we are ready to do the drawdown, which won't happen before November 1st at the earliest. There's been some conversation about not interfering with the project. So there was some conversation about not doing the drawdown till the culvert is 100% complete, but I think we'll have to keep going back and forth on that because the work in the final couple of weeks will be more on preparation of the road and the pavement. So, it might not be an issue for drawing down the lake. What is proposed is that the town will be in a position, well, the culvert project will be able to,
Sorry.
I was asked to unmute.
No, that was my slip of the
Okay.
mouse, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we are trying to be sure that there's no activity in part of the culvert that could interfere with the drawdown. But from what I understand, the water will be flowing through the new culvert well ahead of the time we're talking about doing the drawdown. So if all the stream bed is in place and the conversion back to the culvert stream bed is complete, there should be no reason not to proceed at the normal time of November 1st. So there'll be more discussion on that after the town has secured GZA for the contractor on this project of the drawdown and the dam repairs. I mean the dam consultant work.
And
Do
Melissa,
you have
if I
more
may
questions?
ask, yeah, Melissa, you okay? Ask another question.
Oh,
So
please do.
what did we vote at town meeting for this?
We voted, I think it was 35 and 35,000.
So
There
they,
were two different sectors, and this proposal approaches, includes both pieces. This proposal, I believe, is at 40,
I think it was around 42, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, 42. So while it's more than individually, it's more than the 35 and the 35 combined, when we separate out the parts that are relative to the dam, compared to the drawdown, we have more than sufficient funds for the project. And will assist us in other work to do with the drawdown and the project as we move forward.
And so we need, did you say we need a contract before the drawdown can happen for this year? That this would be part of their task to oversee it?
Yes, yeah. Yes, so what we're trying to arrange with them the appropriate split so we can have those two pieces separate.
Okay, so would that come back to the select board then at our next meeting?
Contract will for that, but the proposal, if I can move ahead with them on the proposal to manage it through to the appropriate pots of drawdown and dam consultant.
Okay.
And then bring back the contract. We might need to schedule an earlier meeting if we're trying to keep moving.
So do you need something from us at this point?
I just want you aware that I'm moving ahead on this and that I will be bringing a contract as soon as possible to the select board. So not a vote tonight, just making sure you're aware. I know I've been talking with Mark Rivers and he has gone through this proposal a number of times and is very comfortable with GZA as the contractor.
And they were the only bidder, correct?
Correct. We had two other flirtations where people asked questions, procured documents from me, but in the end I did not get bids back from them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Eric, did you have any questions at all?
Just a question, what do we pay for these services now and in this year's budget? No, I'm not saying we have a really choice, but just as a point of information, what do we pay now for these same type of services?
We're paying closer to I think it's it's 2,000 over 2 years for is what we were paying the dam consultant. But the final bill for the final 2 reports, so he came in with the reports costing about 2,000 a piece in the last round. But we've been paying about $1,000 a year, 1,000 to 1,500 a year. But we hadn't been, we've only permitted the drawdown since 2018. And when we did that drawdown, we used volunteer assistance and DEP. So for that project, instead of paying over 30,000, we paid nothing except for a $2,300 fee for a special report about wildlife that went into it. So we're going from paying a couple of $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. This is a dramatic shift.
That's what I was afraid of. Okay, thank you. I know there's nothing we really do about it. I'm just raising the question, that's all. So people know.
But hopefully after we have the new permitting fully in place, hopefully this will be a one-time, much larger expense, and then we'll be able to manage within more reasonable numbers.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And you said you didn't need us to do anything at this moment.
Correct.
So it may come back to us though.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just about at 5:45. So let's start the discussion about the Guide Board of Historical Commission. A quick synopsis. I know you're here, at least I thought I saw Miriam. Miriam, are you here?
She's
I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you. People are bouncing around a little bit on the screen. So you're coming to the select board with a suggestion of putting some sort of roofing system over the guide board to protect it. Do you want to give us a summary for the public and also just bring us up to speed on it?
Yeah, and that's not all we're here for tonight. So as you may recall, the Historical Commission prepared a CPA project that it brought to town meeting, and it was approved in 2022 to do a restoration of this antique mileage marker that's in our town common, which we have since learned is an extremely rare and unusual antique structure. There are very, very few examples of them in New England that we have been able to identify. So it has some special meaning for our town, and it is in rough shape because there's been very little and no restoration or repair work done on it in the last 25 years, and it's deteriorating. So we have funds available from the CPA, as well as Historical Commission has access to a donation fund that we can use for this project. And there have been some donated funds, and there's possibilities for some future fundraising from the Friends of the Shutesbury Historical Commission. But we had agreed, because this is on town common and it belongs to the town of Shutesbury, that, at certain key points in this process, we would come back to the select board to give you an update and make sure that you are agreeing to the next phase of the work that we want to propose. So that's really what we're here for tonight. So we have selected a contractor and authorized them to do an initial assessment and detailed scope, which they completed. We sent this to the select board a few months ago, but I sent it last Friday as well. And this is the Williamstown Art Conservation Center. They were attractive to us because they have both conservation technical experts as well as decorative art specialists. And what we learned from talking to a number of specialists is that the restoration of this guide board is really two parts. There's the kind of restoration of the wood itself and stabilization of the wood with various materials and repair of the wood. And then it has to be repainted in an authentic way. And that sometimes is a different skill set. Not all conservationists, and I mean art conservationists, have both sets of skills, but this particular center does have both in-house, which was appealing to us. So the way that they are structuring the proposal is that there would be an initial phase where they would remove the structure and take it to their workshop, take it apart. At that stage, they would be able to develop a proposal for the top of the structure. They said they couldn't give us a quote until they take the structure apart and see what the integrity of the wood is for this top section of it. So they did give us a proposal for the bottom section for the restoration. There were two options. One was exorbitantly expensive and one was more reasonable. So I think we would like to go forward with the less expensive option. And then there would be a repair and replacement of this little wooden and metal top structure to it. They are also recommending that we put another protective structure over the whole thing. And they were suggesting a kind of pavilion type roof, perhaps with plexiglass on the sides to be determined. We're not ready to do that or to propose anything like that right now. I think what we would like to do is just get the restoration work underway, because we've been advised that leaving it outside for another winter might lead to irreparable damage. It's deteriorated a lot in the last 12 months from comparative photographs that we took last summer and this spring. So we know it's in bad shape, and we really would like to be able to complete this project and are fearful that if we don't move forward now, it will be too far gone. And then we're looking at a very different thing. So what we need approval from the select board is approval to just move forward with this initial phase, engaging this consultant, this company, this contractor, I mean, with the understanding that they would give us feedback at every step of the way, so that if they discover something that is a game changer, they would consult with us before proceeding. But that we would then work with them to develop the scope for the top treatment of it. And so the other ask was really aesthetics. If the select board has any preferences that they would like us to consider. I mean, we've been debating what we think is the most appropriate appearance for the top of it, whether we should keep the cedar shingles that are on it currently, even though they're not original to the structure, whether removing them and having a metal flashing would look too different and people might not like it. We're kind of open to getting feedback from people.
Do we know what the original roofing product was at all? Do we have any?
We have photographs from the early 1900s that show what appear to be asphalt shingles. And it did not have the little wooden white raised cupola like shape to it. It had a almost flat roof. So sometime we think in the 1960s, somebody added that cupola-like structure. We have some photographs from the 30s where it's still a flat roof. And then there's a gap where we don't have photographs. So we think it was in the last 60 years. So it's not original. And you can tell looking at the wood is modern plywood.
And what proposals did you have for the shakes? And you said metal. Is slate an option that went with a better?
That absolutely might be an option, and we could explore that with them because that might look very nice. And I understand, in fact, there's some antique slate shingles in the old town hall that we might be able to repurpose, which might be a nice way to recycle something of historical value. The way it works is that there's a metal flashing underneath whatever we use. Right now, it's lead flashing. Ideally, we would like to not use lead flashing and use something that's less toxic, but there has to be some sort of metal waterproofing
Right.
flashing, and then, you know, you can have it just be the exposed flashing, or you can have something that looks like a roofing material.
Rita, Eric, do you have any questions or,
Well,
Marion?
I have one question on the thing that I guess gets sent out in the mail. It says estimated cost phase one restoration. Next line also says phase one restoration. So I'm thinking that something's wrong there. I'm guessing.
I'm
That's-
sorry. That should be a phase two.
Which should be the phase two? That's the bigger number, I'm assuming.
No, the
No.
phase one is the bigger number. So if you
Oh,
look at
okay.
the cost, phase one is the bottom, which is the more technically complex part of like very carefully repairing the wood and then restoring the painting, you know, to look authentic, the lettering. That's the fussy work. The top of the structure, again, it may need to be replaced, but it's not authentic to the structure. It's modern materials. So it's a little box. It's not going to be super expensive, I don't think.
So you're suggesting we go with the metal roof that's basically a flat roof, I mean, or the
No,
metal or
no.
slate or whatever. No.
No. Right now, we want to move forward with the phase one, and we would develop a proposal for the next step once they've looked at it. We can't we're really kind of like asking you for some, you know, preliminary guidance, just so that, you know, as we're planning, you know, we're thinking about how people feel about this and what people's preferences would be. But the cupola repair is phase two. We would not move on that until it's already been in the workshop and they've looked at it.
Right.
Sorry if that wasn't clear.
No, that's good. Got it. Thank you.
Melissa, I just had a question for Miriam. So Miriam, is $23,000 to do that in phase one, and then phase two is an unknown amount of money? Is that?
No, the 23,000 is, if you add it up, is initial assessment report, the 17,000 for the rest in phase one restoration, and then we're estimating 5,000 for the phase two.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't have that.
Add that up. If you add that up, it comes out to 23. It does not include a not a pergola, but a help me out here. You know, what's not a pergola, but is a protective structure. Somebody give me the word. I'm just blocking on it.
Protective structure is good.
We had a little
Yeah, we
confusion
get
at
the idea.
the last meeting. There was a little bit of confusion about what we were trying to envision. That's why I gave you some photographs of exemplars. Just so picture tells 1,000 words. So we do have the resources in hand. You know, we may be able to raise more funds, but I think this is a financially viable project.
And I have a question for Becky in terms of the contracting piece of this. I assume it's a contract that the town executes, correct?
So this is a proposal. I hadn't looked to see. I think this is a more straight, yeah, their proposal on this. Typically, you would sign off on the proposal, so it's a very, yeah, it's just a proposal. I don't see the contract piece to it at all.
No, they haven't given us a contract.
Okay, so they would give us a contract, Miriam?
I imagine they would, with the other phase of this, I don't recall that it was actually a contract. I think it was just like agreeing to their proposal, but I can double check with them. I know that one of the questions that came up is that they carry a kind of minimal liability insurance for structures that they work on in their facility, but they expect the owner to carry liability insurance for the structure. And so we would need the town to clarify, you know, what the extent is of the insurance that covers it.
So once it's off site, once it leaves,
Right.
town common.
During transportation and
Right.
while it's in their hands, it's, there needs to be, it needs to be insured.
So they will not insure it? I mean, it's.
They
don't-
carry insurance, but they say it is their policy to require that, the, owner, the client maintain also liability insurance.
That's unusual.
Is that also with them as listed as an additional insured?
I don't have the details. You're asking, these are good questions. So, we're just having this preliminary discussion. I can get back to you.
Becky, would our insurance require them to be listed as, if we pull it? This is just from the experience I have at work, additional insured, so that you're covered in both places. We want to ask that.
Okay. No, I'd have to talk with them, and if this, so they gave you, there's a lot of contractual type of terms on the backside, Miriam, of that quote for $17,000. Yeah, so I'd have to read through this, because it does appear to be a form of a contract that we would have to have reviewed, just to be sure that we're not, if they destroy it by accident, that we have some recourse.
Right. I mean, what it says is the owner understands that the treatment of art objects is subject to high risk and that the center cannot predict or guarantee the success of effectiveness of any treatment, which I think is probably very standard language. But then it goes, the owner agrees, blah, da, da, da. In limited, we encourage the owner to secure their own insurance coverage for the objects submitted to the center. For objects in the center's possession, insurance coverage is limited. If there's no agreed value set forth on the reverse side of the contract, the owner, then the center's insurance coverage is limited to the cost of the restoration, including depreciation or replacement, but not exceeding the center's available coverage. So it sounds to me like if we don't get insurance, then it's limited to the 17,000.
The balance of the proposal.
Yeah, typically Donna doesn't let us sign contracts like this.
Okay.
So we should review it with her.
Okay, well, that would be great. I think, what we're looking.
On this kind of risk when everything is on our plate.
Miriam, do they transport it? They come and get it, or they hire the company?
We had discussed possibly using volunteers in order to save funds, and getting some volunteers to transport it.
I'll check with Donna about that too, just in case. There may have to be a separate insurance thing for that.
So our hope would be, that we could maybe iron out these details and then arrange for it to be removed before winter sets in. So, ideally, maybe before November 1st or November 15th. Like that.
How long will it take them to do it?
I don't know. I'm guessing it'll be at least
35 hours. So whatever that means in time, they're probably working on multiple projects.
They said that it takes a while. They put it in a climate controlled space and it has to acclimate before they begin working on it. So there are some built-in time delays. And I don't think we would return it back to town common until spring. So I'm guessing it'll be gone for 6 months.
Does any of the other historical commission members have questions? I've met Teo. I see your hand. Or comments?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't quite hear, so I might have already answered this, but in the quote that was received, it said that option would take 105 hours, but that's just the labor portion. I don't know how much the transport, how long that would take.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
The labor portion is just 105 hours.
Yes. This quote did not include transportation.
Oh, I see, option 1 says 305. I'm sorry, Mateo, thank you. It says that for option 1 is 305, and then option 2 is 105 hours. So total, if you add them together, it's 410.
But so no, option 2 is not an option that the committee, that the historical commission was decided to pursue.
Okay.
Option 2 is the one that was pursued. Option 1 was not pursued. The cost, because the work that was involved was not pertinent to preserve.
Okay. Thank you. Becky, you had a question?
I just had a question. Miriam, has the committee considered going back to CPC for the additional funds? And I'm only asking, realizing that the historical commission money that is there took decades to raise. So I didn't know what your other funding options might be. But returning to CPC for additional funds since your project has changed seems like an option.
Yeah, we did talk about that at our last meeting. We certainly are considering developing a proposal for this fall, but we want to wait till the annual town meeting and then postpone taking action for almost another 9 months because we don't think the structure is going to withstand another winter. We do have the funds available. We will not be exhausting all of the funds that we have available. But, you know, and the funds that we have, just so people understand, we get a grant from a Quabbin trust fund, a memorial trust fund. So we get about $1,500 a year as a donation, which goes into a donation account. So that's where our funds come from primarily. And, you know, right now, the way we're proposing it is that we would spend about 10,000 or 11,000 on this. We have 18,000 in the account, so we wouldn't be spending it all down. And conceivably, there could be some more community donations that might come forward if people hear about this, or if, you know, the Friends of the Shutesbury Historical Commission undertake any fundraising.
Rita, do you have any questions?
No, I'm sort of, I'm ready to move ahead. I mean, I think it makes sense if this thing is gonna collapse over the course of this winter to sort of get this underway and get it, you know, get it moved off of the town common.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I guess you know, the questions regarding the contract and the insurance and all of that, Becky, we'd have to get resolved with Donna and our insurance, whoever our insurance coverage is carried by.
I think one of the things that will be challenging is that, you know, it's priceless, but it's a rare object. So there is no kind of established market value. There are no exemplars that can give us an idea of what these things cost. So it's how much is it worth it to us, I guess, as a community, or, you know, how much would it cost for you know, whatever insurance is needed for the transportation piece. I'm told that it can be moved in a pickup truck with appropriate padding. I spoke with Bob Groves, who did the last time it was repaired, and he removed it to his workshop on a pickup truck. It's not attached to the ground. It's just sitting on a slab. So it would take some muscle and some careful maneuvering and padding, but it can be moved.
Okay, do we need to vote on this, or? Miriam, do you have enough?
I think if you're authorizing us to move forward based on whatever conditions, you know, Becky and Donna require. If it turns out that the requirements from Becky and Donna make it impossible for us to move forward, then I guess I would come back to the select board for some clarification, because,
Okay.
you know, if we got to figure it out.
Is it possible, for us to look at the contract real quick before?
Oh, it's right here.
Before, that's a proposal. I mean, when the contract you guys have at the end.
No, I think this is
that's-
their contract, so this is what they will want signed, so if Donna, if it changes, yeah.
Okay,
But it's,
all right, if it changes from that.
but
I'd
this-
just like to be able to read it.
typically, when monies are available, the department can move ahead contracting on their own. It's when the money is through like a town meeting vote or, something larger.
We would have to sign those insurance though, part, that would have to be something we vote on if we have to purchase.
If you need to get more insurance, if that turns out.
But we get more insurance when we need it without
Okay, all
select
right.
board signatures. So it might not have to come back.
Okay, Rita, do I hear a motion?
I will move that we approve the guide board contract, relying upon a review by town council and our town administrator with our insurance provider, the satisfactory provisions, and go ahead with getting the guide board done by the, what is it, Miriam? It's the Williamstown Conservation.
Williamstown Art Conservation
Art
Center.
Conservation.
Second,
All right, any further discussion or questions? No, okay, all those in favor?
Beryl,
Signify by-
aye.
Stalker, aye.
Lisa O'Neill, aye. Okay, thank you, Miriam.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, and now we are moving on to the trustees' joint appointments with the select board. Mary Ann, do we have a quorum of library trustees?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Do you want me to do a roll call so you know who's here?
If you'd like to call yourselves to order. If you
Okay, we'll
posted it.
call the trustees of the Emmons Spear Library to order. Michelle Regan-Lett is here. Mel?
Brad Foster is here. He's here with me.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, Brad, can you say you're here?
I just share screen.
All right, great. Mel?
Here. Do I need to take minutes?
Yes.
It
Like
would
a
be
real
ver-
thing?
Yeah, and it would be very brief though, I think. And then Kate Sell, where are you? Can you?
Yeah, hi, here.
Okay, great. So we're here. So we're here tonight because a longtime trustee, Savannah Ouellette, passed away recently, so we have a vacant seat. So we had three qualified applicants. 3 people submitted their letter of interest. In our last trustee meeting, we had a discussion, and we're recommending Elizabeth Murphy to fill that spot till town meeting.
Okay, is she here by chance?
I don't know. I saw
Yes,
Elizabeth.
I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
there
you.
you are. Okay.
It would be different on the big screen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it's the same.
Oh, it is?
She's the
Welcome, Elizabeth. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And why you
Sure.
might be a library?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Elizabeth Murphy. I live on West Pelham Road, and I've only lived in Shutesbury for a couple of years, since 2020. I am interested in becoming a library trustee for a couple of reasons. One is that I love the library. I'm a big library supporter. And so I've been helping the library with different things like the turkey trot and other fundraising efforts. Another reason is because I have 2 small children. And so I'd sort of like to be the voice of, parents of young children on the board. And I also have a background that includes strategic planning, making budgets. And so I think it would be an honor for me to be a trustee, but also I could help in any way I could.
Rita or Eric, do you have any questions?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too.
Okay. Do I hear a motion then?
I move that we appoint Elizabeth Murphy to the Shutesbury Library Trustees.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Carol, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Peace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, Elizabeth, for volunteering.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank you.
serving.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and I guess we'll close our meeting now, our portion. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Mel,
Okay.
Mel, the meeting minutes will be part of select board, so you can always use those to help you out. All right. Moving on to the athletic club, request for town meeting article to extend hours. Is there someone from Mark?
Yeah, Mark is here. I just saw him.
Yep, I see
I'm
him.
here.
Okay, can you give us a little summary of what you're asking for and?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to put my video on, but it doesn't seem to be working. But anyways, I apologize for that.
You're good.
Yeah, so right now the license says we can open at 11 a.m. I'd like to see if we could adjust that to 10 a.m. for Saturday and Sunday, for the fact that we're trying to start a brunch menu. We have somebody in town who actually brings up their mobile wagon.
No, your computer screen. Hold on one second. No, you just hit mute. Hit your speakers. Yeah, that's it. It's okay. It's fine. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so right, excuse me, right now, our license says 11 o'clock. I was hoping that we could adjust that to 10 o'clock for Saturday and Sundays. And the reason being is we're trying to get, well, right now we have somebody coming in to do brunch a few times a month. And they wanted to start at 10 o'clock for that. And right now we can't do that. That's primarily the only reason. We have no other reason for opening that early on a regular basis, just for events like this, and trying to get something generated for Sundays for brunches. But I was told that it has to go also in front of the state to adjust our license for this. I'm not sure all the logistics of it, but bring it in front of you first.
Have our vote, town meeting vote, and then the state license, I think, if I remember correctly. When they extended their hours, I think that's how we did it, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to check and make sure the rules haven't changed, and Geneva will, she's the one who already identified that we did not yet pass a statute that has to go to town meeting. So we would have to put that on for annual town meeting. Or if there is a special town meeting, we need to put it through a town meeting vote, and most likely it will be on the annual. So more people will have an opportunity to vote.
So we'll have a warrant article, sounds like. Do we need to vote anything now, or just let Mark know we're supporting? And then they submit the town meeting warrant article.
Yeah, if you would vote to support it now, I mean, then he would be assured that you're gonna put it on the warrant without question.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to support the Shutesbury Athletic Club putting a warrant article on town meeting to extend their hours earlier on Sunday?
So moved.
Saturday and Sunday, right?
Correct. It would be Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
That's Sunday. So I apologize.
I'm
Saturday
sorry,
and
no,
Sunday.
my fault.
That's right.
That's all I knew.
Sorry. Okay, so then all in favor of supporting the town meeting article?
Carol, aye.
I'll second it and say aye.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I thought I heard that.
Yeah, I thought you did. You did.
All right. Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Okay. All right. Now we're on to the discussion for the response to phone calls and other communication.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you. I'm sorry, Mark. Thank you. So this was something I added to the select board agenda because the select board has had some emails, certainly. I'm not sure if the other select board members also encountered phone calls at home, but I certainly had encountered phone calls at home. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that to the community and just to remind people, for myself, and Rita and Eric, I'm not sure if you agree necessarily with me, but that sending an email or calling my house with comments that could be not nice or deemed bullying is not going to change my opinion on something. So I ask that that stop and not continue. I don't mind speaking in a rational conversation or in a way that is constructive, but the other ones are not welcome in a conversation with me. So that you know that. And our family members also answer the phone and get those comments too. So just remember that when you're making them. With that said, Eric and Rita, I don't know if you feel the same way or if you want to express any feelings in that realm. You're more than welcome to. I know I kind of jumped in and tossed that in without letting the two of you know. Not that I could because of open meeting.
Eric, you want to start there?
Well, I would just say that there's no place for discourse that isn't civil discourse. And I mean, fortunately, that has not happened to me. What's happened to you in terms of phone calls? I support your notion that those phone calls are not correct, or you're not whatever. They're not good, and they shouldn't be part of government. We're volunteers. Effectively, we get paid $80 a week or whatever it is. We're effectively volunteers making decisions that perhaps are right, perhaps are wrong, but they're honestly arrived at decisions. And we don't deserve to be maligned. That's all.
I guess I would add that I have not gotten any phone calls. I think we've had quite a few emails, and I think on social media there's been a lot of discussion. Civility and respect are really important. Obviously, we have the First Amendment, and people can say what they want to say. But I think I would ask that people think twice about what, if you're calling somebody's home during their precious family time, how would you feel if you were, on the receiving end? And to show respect and not think about what, how that impacts us as public officials who give a tremendous amount of our time. And yeah, again, as Melissa said, you might not like our decisions, but we're elected. So you can elect us out of office, put us out of office if you don't like. And we are all working, in the best interests of the town. And that's what I would have to say. And I hope people can realize that and think about, if you put yourselves in our position. And I have had many people say to me, I don't know how you do it. And my response has been often, I don't know how I do it either.
I don't know.
And it wears on you. And we are giving a lot to make Shutesbury, a wonderful place to live. So that would be my plea.
Thank you, Rita. I appreciate that. Eric, your comments too, appreciate them. So we can move on, and just needed to take that moment to express those things. Okay, so moving on to our check-in on the Concom bylaw and regulations. I know, Rita, you weren't here for our McGregor meeting. I don't know if you got a chance to watch his
I only watched the select board meeting. I haven't watched the Conservation Commission hearing. And I was, I'm going to do that tomorrow. before the next hearing. So I had mentioned to Becky to just put some sort of check-in on the agenda to first kind of see where we are vis-a-vis tomorrow night. Do we have a posted meeting now as a select board meeting? Is it posted as a select board meeting? I know, Eric, you had said you weren't going to be able to attend.
Yeah, I can't do
So-
that.
It's not posted, Rita.
Okay,
But I think you and I've been in a meeting before where we were able to, individually respond,
yeah,
not as
okay,
to the chair of that committee. So
okay,
I have faith that you and I can do that if we both end up there. So, but going forward, I think we'll just have to be more cautious of that too.
okay.
And
All right,
post it
fine, as long as that's understood. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to, and this would be for a future agenda, you know, I do want to follow up on the Conservation Commission, the draft bylaw that they have posted and did forward to us. I did go back and I overlooked that when it came in, and we never heard anything again about the bylaw after that initial submission. So I think it's incumbent upon us, since we have taken this really firm position about getting the bylaw done, is to think about scheduling both a discussion about the bylaw and then look ahead to when we might have a special town meeting.
Did you have an idea of timeline where you wanted to add that to the agenda?
Yeah, I would say at our next meeting.
Okay. Okay, I think that's, I think we should do that. I agree.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's it.
That's it? Okay, that's all you were thinking for the discussion on the check-in with the bylaw?
Yeah,
And such
yeah.
for now? All right. Well, thank you, Rita, for bringing that back to us. I appreciate that. Okay, we have about 5 minutes before the joint session of the planning board for an associate member and an appointment of a PCP, which is a little early. Do you have a quorum, Nathan? Do you see a quorum? Michael. If you speak toward the owl, it will pick you up.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you only have 3 members.
Yeah, there are 3.
It looks like there's Michael and Robert right now, so.
Not quite. Okay. What we can do is, okay, Rita, I see you can make a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just asking who else is missing from the planning board. Jeff Weston and Steve Ressler
Deacon.
and Deacon.
Deacon,
And I don't see anybody in the waiting room.
And I understand Ashley is unable to participate tonight because she is not yet sworn in, and Grace has been away at a conference, back-to-back conferences. So she can't participate as a full member yet.
Since it's not until 6:30 and we're waiting for a couple more, do we want to have another TA update? Sorry to take him away from it at the end, but you know, do you have another TA update?
Yes, so it's the culvert, maybe just update you that the building committee is actively been reviewing the town hall in very deep detail. Stephen Dalmas has been in the attic. He's poked his head up into the cupola. He's reviewed the whole boiler room and every element of the boiler system, which is resulting in my reaching out to Jamrod, our contractor, with some issues that I hope they will address quickly. But the program, the new building committee's program is very thorough. And they've been simultaneously doing small jobs. They've been working, using volunteers at the highway barn roof, in the main, large building that is perpendicular to their office and other garage where the big trucks are. That old building has skylights in it that are made of that old fashioned, it was the plexiglass instead of real glass, for the sunlights. And there's a number of holes that have come through, so it's been leaking, and it leaks onto our magic salt, which is a bad thing. So they have meticulously figured out the most cost-effective method to repair it. We originally got a bid to replace the roof. It came in about $20,000. Given the priorities, and it, you know, 20,000 was all they had last spring in their budget. That being the case, they came up with a different, very resourceful approach to repair the building, repair the roof without the major capital expense. They also are involved in doing phase 3 of the elementary school. Phase 3 will be completing all the exterior work. There is still a lot of trim and exterior boards that have rotted out. Most of them have been painted red, and here we have Jeff Weston. Oh,
No, on screen.
All right.
So the building committee is doing a wonderful job and a multi-pronged approach. And I think they have been meeting more regularly than, they've been much more than the once a month that some of the members were promised. They've been meeting quite often, and I just really appreciate all their work.
That's great. Right. So we're at 6:30. Nathan, do we have a form now? Or everybody you're expecting, I should say.
Well, it looks like we,
Yeah,
Jeff is there, yes, we have a form.
Okay. You want to call yourselves to order?
Yeah, I will call the planning board to order.
I'd like to jump in. I'd like to move to postpone the vote on associate members for the planning board until at least the first scheduled planning board meeting following further consideration by the planning board based on newly available information and in light of established precedent, and when the board has all 7 members sworn in and able to vote.
I'd like to second that motion if possible.
If I can speak to the motion, I'd appreciate that.
Michael, can I just have a clarification? So this
Sure.
This is a planning board meeting within the
This is
select
a
meeting.
correct. I'm making a motion for the planning board. It doesn't involve the select board.
I
So
see.
you guys get to watch while we
Okay,
have this brief one.
I'm just
Thank you for that, Rita. I appreciate the clarification. So I'm making this motion for a few reasons. Most importantly is that following the planning board vote regarding associate member, new information came to light, which I know I found concerning, which I can go into briefly as to the reason I want to do it. And I'll just say that there were 3 requests made to the chair, myself, Jeff Weston, and then Ashley, although she's not sworn in, also requested that the planning board have a subsequent meeting following this information. And that those requests were not heeded. So that's why I'm making this motion. The basis for the motion is that on October 12, 2021, when we first considered associate members, Ken Holt and Rob Kibble in particular, my feeling is that there was very strong precedent set by both the select board and the planning board in terms of how one appoints an associate member. And I'm just going to go through what the minutes captured because I think it's really important. So Deacon, who was chair at the time, the minutes reflected, he said He is concerned about appearances and appointing those with known positions. Nathan, who is currently the chair of the planning board, said he voted against Holt because his writings on large-scale solar were based on fear. Murphy is concerned about Holt's ideological slants. There is more at stake than one particular project. The board needs to be very careful with its decisions. Jeff Lacy, although he's no longer on the board, said two things of note: that he was concerned about how the associate member appointments will be seen and perceived. The biggest concern is that special permit decisions are discretionary, and both Holt and Kibble are known partisans on the issue of large-scale solar. I think it's also important to note that both Ken and Rob, although they said that they could be objective, were not given that leeway. Jeff Lacy went on to say that Kibbler's wife, Miriam DeFont, is also a known solar opponent who testified against the Wheelock project. And if Kibbler were to serve on the planning board, there would be concentrated power in one household, so guilty by association. Holt has written impassioned op-eds prior to any new project applications being submitted. Lacy is not convinced. Both can be impartial, though welcomes them either to run for re-election for the planning board, which is something that's important, that we're talking about appointing someone, not electing. Anyone can have strong opinions if they're running in an elected position. Appointed is very different. And then just to round out where I think the precedent got set, Melissa asked both the candidates for at that time, in thinking about applying, were applicants approached by the opposition or board to serve? In this case, Nathan Murphy shared that he had asked the applicant to apply. Eric stated the two applicants have a known position and he is very concerned about this. And then Rita ended the meeting by saying the planning board has the responsibility to have associate members who have not taken a strong position. Optics are very important. Broader outreach and members without public opposition or conflict are needed. And the planning board was asked to do another search for candidates. So given that the planning board and the select board are both on record for denying two very reasonable people because they had stated positions, I think it'd be egregious to go into a vote tonight by the planning board without reconsidering the fact that the information that was shared states that the associate member who is being considered has been documented on Nextdoor Shutesbury and is currently a moderator of Nextdoor Shutesbury with positions on solar, batteries, forests, and even the legal suit against the town. So that's the reason I think it's imperative that the planning board go back and have a conversation about this. This information was not available at the time, and it would be irresponsible to go forward. And we've got precedent.
If I may, Michael.
Well, I'm just about finished. So that's the rationale for why I'm asking for this motion to postpone. So that, to clarify, the planning board has a meeting to discuss this amongst ourselves, and then based upon that discussion, the subsequent meeting, we could bring this matter forward if it's appropriate.
I also have comments, if there's time to make them as well, regarding Keith.
To speak, if that's all right, Jeff.
Keith,
I did bring this to the select board because, you know, that's what the bylaw says to do when, and I would like to just kind of start off by saying I am very pleased that the planning board has voted unanimously to recommend an outstanding candidate for appointment as associate member at a joint session with the select board with Keith Hasty as our recommendation. Keith has an outstanding background, and he's got both education and a career spanning 2 decades in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I think that translates to having a lot of skills that are going to be applicable to the work we do here on the planning board. Now, I understand we've come into an unusual situation where, you know, after we voted to do this, we have, you know, as Michael has kindly illuminated for everyone, yeah, there's been some posts on Nextdoor. You know, I didn't mean for it to go this way where, you know, everyone found out about that, you know, after the fact. You know, it's out there, you know, Keith has been saying this, these things for years. So, the fact that, no one, I mean, when we voted to recommend Keith, that I think supersedes that there's been new things coming up. At this point, I think it's very important that we have this conversation together with the select board. Appointments to the planning board are very important, and having them in joint session with the select board adds durability and robustness to the conversation that we have. And that is the way that this process was designed to work. So, I mean, yeah, we could have said, all right, we'll go back to the planning board and we'll discuss it, and then we'll come back. Obviously, Michael's been, very persistent in expressing his concerns, to me about this. And, in that he did suggest, there would be a vote at the planning board, but once we recommend to move forward with a candidate, that, that candidate for associate member lives and dies by joint session between the planning board and select board. So that's my position on that. And
so Nathan,
with respect to what you're saying about things that happened in the past back in 2021 with some appointments that got voted down. One, they got voted down in joint session. Two, Keith Hasty has never sent an email to the planning board, or as far as I'm aware of any other board, requesting that we take a certain action with respect to a project. I haven't seen any editorial pieces in the paper written by Keith, advocating for positions. There's been some commentary on social media in the public square, and that may be relevant to a conversation. And but my view on what he said is that, this is someone who is going to have a healthy questioning attitude. It's someone who's not afraid to, kind of say what they're thinking. If, there may be a lot of, it may be known that there's a lot of people that have strong opinions to the contrary of it. So I think that's a very important consideration. And, Robert Raymond, who is also on the call, early on when I got on the planning board, said, that Michael Becchiera is a humanitarian. And, true to that nature, not once, but twice in his email correspondences to me, Michael has expressed his concern for my life as chair being difficult early on in my tenure as chair on the board. But I just want to, make sure that Michael, that as I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I've been giving you the cold shoulder the last 2 weeks, and that's, I like to think of that as an unusual circumstance, and I'm, very happy to serve on this board with you, and I look forward to doing a lot of work on this board with you, and regardless of the way that this goes down, I think your contributions to the planning board are invaluable, and as well more broadly in town. But I want you to reconsider your position, because, you actually asked me, basically twisted my arm to be into this chair position, and I knew that Keith said that stuff, but, I'm happy to serve with you on this board, but if it was me and 6 Michaels, I would just about lose my mind. Okay, I want you and other voices on the board. I think, that's probably the most important takeaway with this, is that we need to have a diversity of perspectives on the board. And, before I entertain a motion to, call this whole thing off right now, I'd like to give the select board a chance to ask questions.
You can't. I made a motion and it's in play, and we have to discuss it and then vote on it. The select board is not part of this.
Right.
That's procedurally. Jeff, can I just jump in before
you have that on the agenda, Michael, so I'm not sure that we have to vote on it.
It's a privileged motion about the issue at hand. Look at Robert's rules. I'm allowed to make a motion about the vote. So just to respond.
Michael, Donna
Yes.
just came on. Can we ask her her opinion on that, please?
Well, I'm allowed, Becky, I'm allowed to make a motion on the issue at hand, and I did. And I'd like to respond to what Nathan said. So it's not about expertise. The select board and the planning board made a precedent. So Ken Holt and Rob Kibler. Rob Kibler is a water engineer for decades. he has lots of experience. None of the comments that the planning board or the select board made the last time were about expertise and knowledge. They were about known positions and staking out. So it's not about having diversity of opinion. The precedent that got set was that if you come as an appointed associate member and you have stated positions on things that are relevant to the planning board, that it's a disqualifying thing. And it doesn't matter if it's an op-ed or if it's next door, it's known. Eric acknowledged it, you acknowledged it, Deacon acknowledged it, Jeff acknowledged it, Rita acknowledged it, Melissa asked about if someone asked them to come on. So all the arguments that voted down the other people make that this appointment ineligible, essentially based on that precedent. And I don't read Nextdoor because it's too toxic. And so it was pointed out to me after the fact. I think the biggest mistake that I made was I should have said, like other boards say, that someone who wants to get appointed should come to the meeting, make a presentation, and then you wait at least one meeting so that things can sort of percolate. And had that happened, I probably would have heard from people and I would have been able to look at this stuff. So I would say that's why I want to go back, because now that we have the information and specifically in light. So it's not about diversity of opinion. It's not about expertise. It's not about resume. It's about precedent that got set where people said, if you have a position on solar or anything related to solar projects, i.e. batteries, forests, or in this case, the suit, it's disqualifying in the light of the 3 select board members who are here and 2 of the 3 people on the planning board who voted against them. And last time around, the only reason that Ken and Rob got here was because they were approved by the planning board. So it's not like it's required. We can go back and discuss it. And I think that's what we're asking for, is rather than eat up more time at a select board meeting and have them get dragged through this, the request is reasonable to say, as a planning board, knowing what we know with the information's there, can the 7 of us have a conversation and then have a vote when Ashley is allowed to vote subsequent to that? That's the requirement. And Nathan, you can make whatever arguments you want and we can have a robust conversation. But what I'm saying is, let's not vote now. It's for the planning board, based on this new set of information, to go back, talk amongst ourselves, figure out if we still recommend this individual, and then go forward from there. I think it is a very reasonable thing. Oh, sorry, Jeff, thank you for yielding your time.
I actually have other concerns as well. I don't know if there's time to talk about them, but my concern was that I've been a classroom teacher for 37 years, and including a department head. And my concern was the comments that I saw in Nextdoor Shutesbury having to do with sarcasm, because sarcasm exhibited by someone in power, like a teacher in the classroom or a member of the planning board, would be destructive. It actually shuts down conversations and exchanges of opinions. It makes students in the classroom or citizens of our town feel unsafe to present their own views because they feel like they're going to be attacked, made fun of, put down by sarcasm. So sarcasm for me is a very important topic, and that's why I feel that we should table this issue and return back to the planning board and talk about Keith's nomination with this new information at hand. And I'm hoping that the members of the select board and planning board can see this, that we're not rejecting Keith's nomination. We're saying, wow, this is new information and we need to talk about it, and we have the responsibility as a planning board members to make sure our decision is right, because he is not being elected. I was elected by the town, and other members of the planning board and select board were elected by the town. So we have a responsibility to hire someone who is open to different ideas and who is not sarcastic in dealing with the public. So those are my views. And I feel pretty strongly about this. We are not ready to vote for Keith as a associate member of the planning board. That's my judgment. That's my feeling.
I raised my hand. You can't see that it was actually Nathan. Can I? Please. So since Michael brought this up in an email and then also here, I want to give a little more context to why I voted against Ken and Robert. And it was because the question was asked, can you tell us about yourself? And both of them in almost the first sentence said, I'm against solar. I had read the other stuff that they had said and had done, but the reason that I voted against them was they came out right, blank, straight, I'm against solar, which means that there's no ability for flex there when that's the first statement you're making at the meeting where you're being appointed to a board. That's why I voted against them, because they said it that night directly at the beginning when they both opened up to tell us about themselves. They didn't even have to be asked about it, Michael. So that's why I voted against them, because I feel that there needs to be diversity of opinion on boards, that there shouldn't be a high percentage of people for or against something, but there should be some of both sides. If no, I also don't think that social media is a litmus test for someone on a board, because as I'm looking at the names here and after reading Next Door Shutesbury, I see a lot of names that I wouldn't appoint if that was the litmus test.
Probably true.
Wait a minute, I'm not done. It's a place where you have freedom of speech, and that should be respected. People express their feelings differently on social media than other people. Sarcasm is something that I have had all through high school for my teachers. Sarcasm is something I have experienced in multiple places, even at restaurants from waiters and waitresses. It's not something that offends me. But we're also here to make a decision and to, Nathan, bring someone forward that isn't just the view of people on screen or the emails or phone calls that have been received, but also for those other residents that aren't sharing that. There are other residents that have the same opinion as Keith, or have the same opinion as I do, Michael as you, Nathan. We all have different opinions about different things. So we're also need to create boards that have different opinions, so those town residents are also represented on these boards. So I think that, and to be honest, we, even though last time we appointed Ashley with her answers and her opinions on solar, so there is some people that have been appointed. I think, in my opinion, I would move forward and let the select board talk about this candidate, because I think it's important for us to have that discussion. And it's important to have the discussion because I feel like the social media is going to be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue in a small town. People have opinions on different things. We can always disagree on stuff. What I have read on Nextdoor did not fit the 4 things that I would consider not appointing someone for. And so I think we need to have the discussion. It unfortunately is bringing the social media thing to light, which I don't really like as a part of employment or part of appointing people. So that's just my comments, Nathan. I'd like to have this discussion as select board and the planning board. I think it's important because looking at his resume, it is a very nice resume that I think could be beneficial to the town.
I would like to catch Steve Bressler up, who has just joined the call. Once I called the planning board into session, Michael DeCiera jumped in and quickly made a motion that we table this topic now and not discuss with the select board in joint session. And we've had some discussion on that with varying opinions as to whether or not we should move forward. So that's where we're at. We're in discussion on that motion right now. And
Nathan,
I'm saying that we
technically
are.
I moved. Nathan, technically I moved to postpone. I didn't move to table. It's a difference.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so you move to postpone and have a discussion with only the planning board. And my position is that being that we did unanimously recommend to discuss this in joint session, that the conversation should be had with the select board. And I do see that Robert has his hand up. Robert Raymond.
Yes. One moment, please. I really hear where Michael's coming from. I understand that the further sharings that have been referenced by Keith are something we'd want to be concerned about. I don't see it as a precedent that we would exclude someone who shared in such a manner. I certainly would see a necessity that we have the opportunity to question Keith about his position and about the statements he made. And that may well bear upon deciding that he might not be appropriate. Maybe it would bear upon deciding that there's no question he can sit with integrity on the planning board and to go forward. I also hold the relevance of the comment that we're talking about an associate unelected member as opposed to an elective member, and that's of significance. I would be opposed to the motion because we're here now. Keith is here now. The select board and the planning board have a full opportunity to question him and decide perhaps that we are not choosing him, or decide perhaps we are. But I would like to go forward with the scheduled joint meeting.
I think Ashley's got her hand up.
Yeah,
Go
thanks.
ahead, Ashley.
Just a quick comment. I have been appointed, which I appreciate. And I just wanted to say that Melissa, you said that I was appointed with my opinions on solar as part of it. And I tried really hard to not
shared opinions. It wasn't that they were solid.
Yeah, but I don't feel it was an opinion. I just shared my experience because solar did bring me into this, just having it as, you know, part of my realm, so to speak. That's how I learned about the work of the planning board. And I just want to make it clear that I wasn't trying to express any opinions. That's all.
That came through. We could tell that. Yeah.
So
Thanks.
Nathan, I just want to follow up. I don't see anyone else's hand up, so I find it really disturbing to have people dismissing the fact that we're all allowed to have opinions and social media doesn't matter. When we dragged Rob Kibler and Ken Holt through the mud for having stated opinions. And I'm just going to read again what was said. Deacon said he's concerned about appearances and appointing those with known positions. Nathan said he voted against Ken because his writings on large scale were based on fear and he was concerned about his ideological slants. Eric said the two applicants have a known position and he's concerned about this. And Rita said the responsibility is to have associate members who have not taken a strong position. Optics are very important. So you're changing what you're saying midstream because you particularly want this person. It's inconsistent. And if we think about how townspeople look, it's like, okay, we're going to allow some people who have strong opinions and are stated to get accepted, and other people, we're going to use that as an excuse for not appointing them. Anyone, Melissa, can run as an elected person. I have opinions. Everyone knows that. I ran and I got elected. Someone can run with strong opinions and get elected. It's very different from being appointed. And what these two bodies have said in writing less than 2 years ago was that people who have stated opinions are not people that they want to appoint. That's what's on the record. That was the rationale for doing it. There was nothing about diversity of opinion. There was nothing about where it shows up, whether it's online or in the newspaper. It's that it was known to have strong opinions, and that was disqualifying. And those people got,
Michael.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm done.
Have you seen an email from Pete to the planning board advocating for anything?
It's irrelevant whether it's email or social media, or it's what everyone said is a known opinion.
Relevant.
No, a known opinion means that people in town have seen that there's an expressed opinion one way or the other on something. That's what a known opinion is. No one who wrote it down, Ken and Rob, said, I didn't like that they sent me an email, or I didn't like only that it was on social media. It was a known opinion, and having known stances or ideological slant, as you said. There was no, the modality is irrelevant.
And either way, it's an important conversation to have together with the planning board and the select board. So if they're,
I guess I wouldn't have moved it forward.
Yeah, but.
I have just another statement. Michael, the thing that those other two candidates were allowed to do is we had the discussion between the planning board and the select board. Right now, that's not occurring. So we aren't even able to have that discussion with the select board because you want to delay it. I understand that that's what you want, but those other candidates were able to have that discussion. We were able to talk to them and ask the questions we had. If this goes, we aren't able to do that. So it's not out, you're comparing apples and oranges at this moment, unless we're able to talk and have that discussion with the two boards.
Well, I guess I would just say in response, if I had that information at the planning board level in the discussion, I would have said, how can we be forwarding this name forward when this person has documented positions on issues that come before the planning board? It's already been stated that the select board and the planning board don't want to have appointed associate members that have documented opinions. So it wouldn't have got here. They didn't know that they were walking into that buzzsaw last time. So they did have that conversation. But now we know that that's not what the planning board and the select board have articulated.
Eric?
Sorry, my raised hand thing, I can't seem to make it work. I would just disagree with you, Michael, in the sense that I don't believe that the previous discussion, I do think there's a matter of a degree here that's important. It's one thing to be someone who has written very, very, anti-solar in this particular case, articles that were, or letters to the editor published in the Hampshire Gazette and so forth. It's another thing to have a discussion on social media, which I, like you, I have never read Next Door Shutesbury except for this particular event, just because I figured I should know what was actually said. And it's another thing to have that discussion on a social media site. They're totally different things. And I would agree with what Melissa said, that there was a real sense that the primary purpose for the other two applicants to join as associate members was to defeat industrial solar. That's what they were all about. That's fine. I don't object to them having that opinion.
But they didn't say that. They said the opposite.
Well,
they said that they said the opposite to you guys, and they said it to the planning board. They said, we can put aside our personal opinions when we're in the office and have a balanced approach. And it was not accepted. They were shot down and said,
well,
regardless of what
it's a little hard to accept it when that same person, who is a friend of mine, I'd like to think, had a perfectly rightful opinion published in the Gazette. That's just not, you can't publish something like that in a letter to the editor and then say, I will have a clear mind. And that's just not, that's irrational. I don't believe that that's the case.
Well, so, then you have to carry this forward.
My point in general, and I'm not going to argue about this because I'm not going to start an argument here. My point in general is I think there was a significant distinction, and not precedent assumes that you have that even if you change your mind, that's wrong. But I don't think there's a precedent established here, but that's another story. But I think that the general sense that things happened before, where that we're doing something completely different now is not. I don't agree with that argument. I think you've really you've sculpted your argument, so you've left out a lot of the discussion and kind of put words in people's mouths, and I don't believe it.
I'm reading from the minutes. These are the official minutes of the town of Shutesbury.
I don't care what the minutes are. I know what I thought. I know what other people thought. People have said what they thought. It wasn't, as I said, I'm not going to argue. I'm done.
Rita?
I guess the distinction that I would make is that at least I know with Ken Holt, he was speaking specifically to a project that we knew that was going to come before the planning board. So, or we assumed was going to be coming from the planning board. So his writing talked about AMP. I haven't seen, and that, you know, if you're predetermining before an applicant is coming in, that's a big concern. And I think that's a difference between those writings and what happened with Keith. That's it.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Take care. You're muted. And just to remind everyone, the motion on the table is to postpone this discussion to planning board. And did I hear an aye from Michael?
It's to postpone the discussion till the first meeting after we've had further consideration by the planning board and when the full board of 7 members is sworn in and able to vote. Those are the 2 things. So I am in favor of the motion.
Weston?
Did you say what? I'm sorry, did you say Jeff Weston?
I did.
Oh, aye.
Jeff.
I'm in favor of the what Michael said. Thank you.
Okay. Bonner? You're muted.
You're muted, Deacon.
Yay.
Raymond?
Nay.
Bressler?
Aye.
What was that?
Yes.
I, yes, okay, and I'm a no. That makes it, the motion does not carry. And at this time, I am very pleased to announce that the planning board brings an outstanding candidate to a joint session of the select board for everyone's consideration. And without further ado, I would very much encourage people to ask some questions.
Okay. I'm gonna read them, Eric, if this is okay. I know we're running a little bit behind, but there's people on here that don't know Keith's education or employment. So Keith, I see that you're here. You may turn your camera on if you'd like to, or at least unmute yourself so we can ask some questions.
I would like to have him under the camera. We didn't see him last time. It'd be nice if he's going to be a public official to see his face.
Hi, Keith. Nice to see you. Could you give us a little bit of information about yourself? Like I said, there's some people on the call that don't have the information that we have in front. If you could give us a little highlight of your education and then employment history.
Sure. So my name is Keith Hasty. I've lived in town since 2008. Live on Schoolhouse Road. And my relevant career to the position is roughly 25 years with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in several different capacities. Most of them involve interpreting regulations and statutes, reading very carefully the guiding regs on a particular issue, and applying the regs to whatever problem at hand there might be in an objective manner. As I mentioned during the planning board meeting, when I introduced myself to the planning board, we all have our own environmental ethics, I guess, or beliefs on most any subject. In my work for the government, for the federal government, you have to be able, I found that you have to be able to be objective when you're reviewing a particular project or an action. I spent my career being very careful to do that and checking myself, checking my own preconceived notions, letting the science and the data and the information guide whatever decision or recommendation I might be making. So I retired from that position a little over 2 years ago, and have found myself. I've always, when we moved to Shutesbury, I loved the community. I felt at home here. I just really, it was a good vibe that I got from the town and the people in the town. But raising my children at the time and working full time, I didn't feel like I had, or wasn't going to carve out the time to volunteer for town government. Now I've got time to volunteer, and I've kicked around this idea since I retired, whether or not I wanted to get involved in town government. And then was approached by Nathan, and then I saw the posting on Nextdoor, our favorite social media venue, and was hesitant to put my name in the hat for this associate member position, because I know I have several years, at least 3 years of commenting on Nextdoor Shutesbury. Much of it on renewable energy. Actually, I went back. I'll reset here. So I went back and looked through them, and I told Nathan, I said, hey, listen, because I've had some fairly spirited debates with people on Nextdoor. And I suspect there's going to be some concern about my previous positions, but I think I'm comfortable defending what I've said, because I've never taken a position pro or against any particular project, the existing project or any that have been floated out there in the last couple of years. Most of my comments have been more big picture, climate change, renewable energy, the need to change quickly, and pushing back on misinformation or partial information or misinterpreted information from other people. I've got some experience with energy. It's been as a personal interest for several decades, and then for 6 years officially with the Fish and Wildlife Service, where I got paid to look very carefully at energy issues. And the potential conflict between energy and in my case, the trust resource of the Fish and Wildlife Service. So I would opine on Nextdoor Shutesbury to either correct misinformation or to try to encourage people to look at things through a different lens or big picture, and recognize that every activity humans do has some consequence, and perhaps there's a different lens that we could look at renewable energy projects. And I'm going to ramble here. I probably have already rambled. So anyway, I'm going to contest what Michael has said, because one, I've never stated an opinion one way or the other on Nextdoor. If I have, I can't find it. I've gone back and searched through. The search function of Nextdoor isn't great, but I've gone back and through and looked at all my posts, and I haven't seen where I've actually taken a position on any project in Shutesbury, for or against. I can be sarcastic, and I've been checked on that before by other commenters on Nextdoor. Typically, the sarcasm is if anybody, somebody mentioned earlier that it can be a toxic place, and there are occasions when there has been subtle and overt hostility from some commenters, and in response, I can be sarcastic. I try not to be overtly hostile back. I try to be helpful to people. I've got 112 pages of comments that I downloaded from Nextdoor Shutesbury. I'm happy to share with people. You can go through my comments and see the tone of my responses and the nature of my responses. So happy to, yeah. And Michael, to be honest with you, when you say you were unaware of my comments on Nextdoor, I've downloaded several back and forth between you and I, direct conversations between you and I. So I find it surprising that you're unaware that I've commented on Nextdoor Shutesbury regarding renewable energy.
Keith, can I ask, let me ask Rita or Eric if they have any questions too. I have a few others, but Rita or Eric, do you have any questions for Keith?
Not right now. Thanks.
Eric? Well, you're muted, Eric.
Here we go. Sorry. The only comment I'd make is that Keith's comments, and I have not, as I said, I don't really read Nextdoor, so I don't know. But Keith's comments, as I do know this much, that all of them were signed. They weren't anonymous comments. They were comments that he made that he took ownership of. And I think that's a significant difference between some of the comments that have been made. It sort of goes back to what Melissa was talking about before, where some of the comments have been made about the select board and so forth, in particular by the smart solar business, smart solar Shutesbury, that have sort of accused the select board of sort of gumming up the works with regard to the bylaws, the regulations, and like we've got some sort of conspiracy going on to stop the Conservation Commission from adopting regulations that I'm sure are basically ultimately meant to stop solar, which is fine. I'm not objecting to that, but I do object to things that have been said, like there was for example, an unsigned email accusing the select board, among other things, of, and I'm quoting, working against protecting Shutesbury and Amherst water resources, wetlands, and forests, closing the quote. As far as I'm concerned, nothing could be further from the truth. That the select board is very interested in making sure that all that stuff happens, and in fact that it happens in probably a way that ultimately will result in even stronger and more legally defensible bylaws and regulations than we would have otherwise. So I guess I'm just commenting that Keith's comments have been out in the open, and the Smart Solar Shutesbury comments, a lot of them have been, which again, people have the right to say whatever they want to say, but I would prefer that people who say whatever they want to say would at least admit who they are. That's all.
Rita, you didn't have any other questions? I did have a couple more. I know you have your hand up, Michael. Hang on one second. So one of the questions I asked Keith of other candidates is that give us an example in your work life or personal life where you have had to make a decision or have a discussion, but make a decision that goes against what you personally would like to see for the greater of the group or good of, say, in this case would be a town if you're appointed. Can you give us an example of where you've had to go against your own personal beliefs?
So my last position with Fish and Wildlife Service before retiring was working for the Endangered Species Program, specifically doing scientific reviews of species that we were petitioned to list. There was indication that a particular species was in trouble. And there were multiple occasions when, so the standard for the Fish and Wildlife Service is best available science. And there were times when, and for some species, especially rare species, cryptic species, there may not be an abundance of science to guide a decision, but a decision has to be made. there have been occasions where either I felt a species deserved protection, but the science was not sufficient to suggest to recommend that. And conversely, there were situations where the species appeared to be secure, and again, I hesitate to use the word belief because that is not used in our work. Believe that perhaps the species did not need protection, but the data were indicating that it might. Again, our guiding principle was the regs and the best available science. And my belief or my thought or my gut instinct did not matter. So.
Most of them I recognized yet?
But
That was a yes? Okay.
go
So
ahead.
a few things just to start off. Eric, social media means that you have an account and your name has to show up. I think you're conflating frustration with Smart Solar and other people expressing opinions to the select board and this process and this associate member. So if you post something on social media, your name has to be there. In Keith's case, it's Keith H, not his full name, but nonetheless, you have an account. So, you know, and going back to the validating thing of an editorial, a name's on that, you know, so there's no awards if you post on social media that your name is there. It's just the only way you're allowed to post. So that's sort of one thing. Keith, I didn't say you had an opinion about any open project. That's just to clarify, I didn't say that. And I think Rita, that was not part of the conversation the last time around with Rob and Keith, with Ken. The objections were that there were stated positions. No one said stated positions about upcoming projects. That qualification was not there, never in the minutes. It wasn't addressed. Everyone knows what's on the horizon, but the issue is stating a position about the issue that was objected to. And I guess and the last little bit thing, and then I do have a question for you, Keith, is you're correct. I look back, you responded to my post. I haven't looked at Nextdoor except to post things for sale for like the last 2 years. So most everything I've missed because I just can't bear to go on it. So you're accurate. I posted something and you responded. I saw one thing, but the last couple of years, I just don't pay attention. And I had most of the things that I saw, I was seeing for the first time and it was brought to my attention. So I guess my question is, I ended up voting in favor of you because as you present, as you did tonight, as you did last time, you know, as a federal official trying to enforce regulations, you're looking at science and you're being objective and your personal opinions don't come in. That was said by the other people who also had scientific backgrounds, and that was not given credence. And the concern was they stated opinions and their ability to be fair and balanced and objective, if they were sitting in the role of a public official, was not possible. And so I get, you know, and there's a lot of incentive when your paycheck is on the line. You know, Nathan can't participate in solar conversations because an employer has said that that's a conflict of interest. Of course, no one's going to jeopardize their paycheck. But this is not about a paycheck. And I guess the question is, looking at your, you know, positions and your statements and the sarcasm and a lot of the debates online, how would you expect people in town, not everybody, but people to feel like if you end up making a decision that you're actually bringing the fair, balanced part of you, because you haven't articulated that in your personal life, in your community online, which is very different from your professional life. So I'm struggling to say, if people didn't think others could do it, why should I think that you could do it here? It's a genuine question.
I would ask, have you read my post on Nextdoor, Michael?
I have read several of them, yes.
Because again, I've probably got hundreds of posts and I'm happy to send that to you. I've gone back and read that. I've never stated a position.
Well,
I've-
on things you have, not on a project. I mean, I'll just, the ones that jump out at me, is, in the context of climate change, you were saying that existing environmental laws may need to be reconsidered while we rapidly displace fossil fuels. That's a position. Having a position that says that if someone feels the government has misinterpreted or misapplied a law or infringed on one's rights, don't you think a legal challenge is warranted? That's a position. These are all positions. You're stating your opinion. It's not, I'm not talking about, those are opinions. I'm asking about, we can splice it. You express lots of opinions, not about a project, but about batteries, about legal cases, about solar, about forests, about all the bundle of things that would intersect with the planning board. So those you have stated, and emphatically in some cases. So how do we go from that to people saying you can be fair and balanced? That's what I don't get.
So I don't think I've ever made a post on an original post on Nextdoor Shutesbury. I have responded. The three things that you just brought up were responses to conversations that were ongoing or statements by somebody else. And to be honest, I forgot the examples you had. I would like to see the context of what the statements were made, because they're not, your first comment about perhaps our environmental laws should be revisited in light of climate change. I stand by that. I'm not saying that we should disobey those laws or not follow those laws. But I'm saying from a societal point of view, the laws that were written in the 60s and 70s and 80s before climate change was a recognized threat, existential threat, eclipsing all of the other things, that perhaps the legislature should revisit some of these laws. And I'll stand behind that. I don't know why that is any kind of alarm bell to you.
Well, we're a regulator, so.
Absolutely, and the laws that are on the books are the laws that are on the books. I'm not saying ignore the law.
Rita, I see your hand.
Sure, I'm just going to make two quick comments. One is the fact that we do have a solar bylaw, albeit one that is being challenged, but part of the responsibility of the planning board is to uphold that bylaw. And Michael, I just want to get back to your point where it was maybe it wasn't stated clearly. You wrote about AMP in your op-ed, but it was inferred and it was understood. And that, if you want part of what I was thinking, that's what I was thinking about. So just as a point of clarification. And I guess the last thing that I would say, and I hope we can wrap this because we have to go into executive session after this, is that I've learned a lot in the last, couple of years and last 3 years that I've been on the select board. And, I take this experience, I take the experience from 2 years ago, and I'm really thinking about it and learning about maybe ways that we can do things better. So I'll leave it at that for now.
I see Robert's hand. Robert?
Yes, Keith, I have a few questions. The comment that I saw posted with regard to statements you have made referred, or the one that stands out in my mind was a statement, I guess you would call it a sarcastic statement. Well, if we don't like dangerous solar, maybe we should go back to coal or oil exclusively, something along those lines. Do you recall a statement along those lines?
I've made that statement multiple times.
And I guess first I want to ask you, could you tell me what you mean by that statement?
As I said earlier, that all human activity has some effect on the environment. Everybody, I have electric lights in my house. The communication device that we're on now runs on electricity. Our electricity historically has been generated by coal, a little bit by oil, more recently by natural gas, in some places hydro. All of those things have an environmental cost associated with them, some worse than others. So I have challenged people to think beyond a immediate response of no, because, and I think that the language I've used, we have to pick the best, as far as energy production, the best option available amongst a bunch of maybe not great options. Pick the options that cause the least harm or damage. So I guess, does that answer your question, Robert?
Not quite. So I'm gathering from that comment, you are on the one hand saying solar is not dangerous and we have to keep an openness to it. Is that somewhat some of it?
Dangerous in what way?
Well, the sarcastic comment was, I gather, although.
Robert, if I may, just to help you out in asking your question, maybe it would be, just to kind of review.
I have the comment if you.
But it was in one of the emails to both the planning board and select board where there was a comment that said like, screw dangerous solar, let's go back to coal and gas or something like that.
So
right?
this is partly why when we got those emails to the select board and there was only snippets of what Keith said, and the name wasn't listed exactly, Keith Hasty, that I asked for the link so I could read, and hopefully others were able to read, the entire post from the person that wrote it all the way down through, because taking Keith's words out of a post gives no context. So that part was important, to read it in context of the whole conversation. And I think if you do that, you understand that there may have been some frustration among all of those commenting, and that maybe that's where the comments before him and after him also had similar responses. So I don't want to harp on the social media so much, because personally for me, the social media part isn't something that's going to generate a large part of my decision tonight. It's going to be what I see in his educational background, what he has said tonight, based on some of the questions that were answered. Does anyone else have any questions not related to social media? Like to
Robert is asking.
I'd like to finish.
Robert, I'm sorry,
question, please.
I have a light that's right where that hand is reflecting on the screen, so I didn't realize it was still up. I'm sorry.
I'd like to finish my question.
Please.
Keith, is there anything about your comment, however it's interpreted, which in any way suggests that you cannot meticulously follow the bylaw of the town of Shutesbury with regard to solar installations? Is there anything about your comment which in any way is an obstacle that would be a barrier for you to meticulously, fully comply with the bylaw in making your decisions?
No, and I try to be very careful when I write a comment. I try to use language precisely and accurately.
I just want to hear your answer. I don't need the further explanation.
No, I am perfectly capable of being objective and applying the bylaws as they are written.
And whatever opinion you might have with regard to solar that's personal to yourself, are you prepared to put that aside if it's in any way, if it in any way conflicts with the direction that the bylaws of the town of Shutesbury give.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I've got another question, Melissa, and I don't think we should cut it short. This is what I was trying to avoid by having the motion. So we have to have a full conversation before we vote. So my question is, one of the other comments in here was, the way I read it was that if a party feels like the law is misapplied or misinterpreted, that they have a right to a legal challenge. So I'm assuming that's referring to the complaint against the town, against the solar bylaw from 2021, 2023. Because it references Coles. Coles isn't the first entity to sue the town. So the complaint was filed in April. So this is relatively recent. So presuming, as people have presumed, that we have potential special permits coming in where Coles will be the landowner and Pure Sky will be the developer, based on these comments, they're suing us because they don't think the bylaw is fair and reasonable. So if you're saying that they have the right to sue, yes, technically everyone has the right to sue, but it seems like there's some underlying assumption that the bylaws maybe are legitimate to sue because of the content, not just the fact that anybody can sue if they think they're wrong. So I guess if you're going to be sitting and listening to these things, you're going to bring that approach to the table, that in fact, contrary to what, Rita said, that we have a bylaw in place, that you're sort of questioning the underlying legitimacy of those bylaws from a substantive perspective.
I never questioned the legitimacy of the bylaws. That nowhere in that post. The conversation leading up to that was, if I recall, there was a commenter saying that, to paraphrase, why does the Coles family hate Shutesbury, or something along those lines? And I was opining that it is all of our right to sue if we think government has overstepped or misinterpreted a law. There are, in the time I've lived here, there have been multiple lawsuits against either the state or the town specifically on a variety of issues by individuals in the town. That's their right. That's the way our system works, that if you don't think a law was applied correctly, you can sue. That's all my comment was. It had zero to do with the bylaw itself.
Okay, well, bring it up to the current. What do you think about the bylaw? Because you will be ruling on the bylaw. So, and the issue last time around was people were rejected despite all these comments on the position they had, the substance about issues. So what do you think about our solar bylaw, either the current one or the one that was recently passed?
I think it is the law of the town.
That's not my question. I'm asking you
what do I
behind
think?
that. Yes, what do you think?
I think it's a fine solar bylaw. I think there's some ambiguity in parts of it, like there are in most regulations. And if I were a king for a day, might I write it differently? Perhaps, but no, it is the town bylaw. That is the rules we run by.
Okay, thank you.
Do the select board members have any other questions at all? I don't.
I'm good.
Eric. Oh, Eric's sitting down. I see him. Are you all set, Eric?
Oh, all set. Thank you.
You want to ask if you're ready to vote, or select board can certainly start it out.
Right. I mean, does the planning board member have any further questions for Keith?
Would you like to, Becky, I don't remember how we did this last time, or the last few times.
All right, the select board started off, but you can just, everyone votes intermingled. It doesn't have to be.
All right, so let's start.
That's my vote. Because he wrote the bylaw.
Michael, is that correct? Where with the associate, with appointing, we don't go by committee, we just go as a group. Yes. I think that's correct.
You're talking to me?
Yeah.
We do need that.
I didn't
Yes,
hear
we-
the question.
We've done it in the past. We've done it as a whole group, counting the votes as one. We didn't do it committee by
Correct.
committee or board by
It's,
board. Okay.
it's the whole thing. So in this case, it would be 9 votes.
Okay. All right.
Melissa,
So
do we have a motion? I just wanted to make
I
sure.
was just about to ask for one.
Okay.
Do I hear a
I don't think
motion
so.
to appoint Keith Hasty as the associate member of the planning board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I think the select board called on people.
Yeah,
that works. Okay, sure. Let's see, I'll just see the names and we'll do it randomly. Actually can't, so, Rita, I'm just following the screen here.
Aye.
Jeff Weston,
Jeff Weston, nay.
Deacon,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
okay. Michael,
Nay.
Robert,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
there's another, where is he?
Steve
Steve, Steve,
Aye.
thank you. So Neil is an aye. Does that catch everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 7-2. Appointing Keith to the planning board. So Keith, congratulations. Thank you for a very nice discussion. And Michael as well, thank you for a good discussion. I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Even though
everyone.
we disagree,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
One just fact, Keith, so the term runs through June 30th. And then because this is a vacancy, there'll be an election to fill that spot.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, and we have one more person to appoint, which is the PCP Planning Board Representative. Nathan, who is that person for the?
Cliff Reed.
Cliff Reed,
yeah.
okay. Is Cliff here? I don't see him.
I don't think at this time.
And that's not a joint appointment. That's just kind of.
Oh, okay,
That's the
okay.
select board. so-
Okay, so the select board has to approve Cliff Reed as the PCP Planning Board,
CPC.
I'm sorry, CPC Planning Board, that's about soup, Planning Board Representative. Does someone do you want to give us a little bit of information about that? Or are you just letting us know? You guys have voted unanimously?
Yeah, we voted unanimously. I think Michael and Matthew from CPC had kind of like worked it out and kind of tapped Keith on the shoulder. Tapped Cliff on the shoulder, and from what we understand, he's a unicorn, and that almost unanimously liked by not only people on these boards but also the public. So it seemed to be a very kind of straightforward, resounding approval of his recommendation.
Melissa, can I just give quick context?
Yeah.
So on the CPC, there's a planning board representative. I was the representative, as Rita knows, for I think 2, maybe 3 years. And at the point that I stopped, none of the other planning board members were interested in filling that. But the way the bylaw works is that it can be a planning board representative, doesn't have to be someone on the planning board. And so talking to Matteo, who's the chair of the CPC, he looked around, came up with Cliff, who was interested. And so we were in agreement when we voted that Cliff would be the representative for the planning board, even though he's not on the planning board, filling that seat for us.
Thank you. Does the select board have any other questions before we have a motion, or we can have a motion and further discussion?
I'm fine.
I'm
You're
good.
good? Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I'll just add that I am on the CPC and Cliff has been attending meetings. So just to watch.
Thank you very much, Rita. Do I hear a motion to appoint Cliff Reed to the CPC as a planning board representative?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Carol, I.
Tucker, aye.
Thank you, Sunil. Will someone let Cliff know that he was appointed?
I will.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we are now moving into an executive session for reason 3, and I have to discuss the strategy. So we need to ask anyone who's not part of the planning board or select board, or Ashley, you can stay because you're going to be appointed, to leave the meeting.
And I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna depart at this time. And Michael, would you handle closing down the planning board meeting?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget your computer.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So we do need to go into executive session. And I need a motion to go into executive session for reason 3 and not to return to regular session. So we will have to ask anyone not on these 2 boards to dissipate, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Melissa, you asked for a motion, correct?
Yes,
So moved.
thank you.
And I'll second.
And Keith can stay. So
Keith
we're
can
down.
stay, right, he's gonna be appointed.
And Carrie
Ashley
is the
Kathy,
land
yeah.
use clerk, so she's
can-
staying.
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth
Joseph.
Bonet needs to leave. Mark Robley, Mike S., Steve Schmidt. Joe, iPad needs to say goodnight. Okay, and if you're not leaving, you'll be assisted through the door. Thank you.
So we have to still roll call,
Wait a
Melissa.
second. Yeah,
We're not
empty
clear
yet.
yet. What? Mike, yeah, he's gotta go. Good night, Mike. Good night, Elizabeth.
Anybody else?
Just, I
The
think
bottom.
just to clarify, we have to decide to have Keith
I'm
be
sorry,
here.
we're still not, we're still not clear 2 members. Yeah.
Okay, so this gives us just those. Since we are allowing Ashley to attend because she
Oh,
has been.
I don't object. I just wanted to state it.
Oh, okay, all right. You didn't object.
No.
Okay, sorry. 2 things at once there. Okay, so all those in favor of going into executive session and not coming out to open session, can I have a roll call vote? Rita.
Carol, I.
Tucker, aye.
Michael.
Kiara, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Jeff.
Weston, I.
Okay, I think that's everybody. I got to make peace O'Neill, aye. Ashley and Keith, you can't vote yet until you're sworn in. So just so you guys know, and in that format. Okay, I'm gonna shut the door in here because we don't know who might walk in. Is everybody alone? They have to tell us whether they're alone in their rooms and no one else can hear you.
I am.
Donna said yes.
Yeah, I heard Donna. Is everybody else alone?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Ashley's alone.
Okay. Michael, did you say yes?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Or you can just even shake your head. Thank you, Carrie. Keith, okay, everybody. I'm next to Becky just in case, she and I are.
We are alone in the room together.
Okay. All right, so we are in executive session to go over the strategy. Donna had an update for us. Donna. can you update us?
Good evening, everybody.
And thank you for waiting. I truly appreciate it.
Very welcome. It's fine. So the point of the executive session tonight is just to update everybody on the challenge to the Shutesbury solar bylaw, as far as what's going on in court, and to give you a little bit of an evaluation of Adam's and my sense of it now that we're basically all the documents are filed and we're getting ready to have a hearing on summary judgment. So I just want to remind everybody, this is an executive session. Everything said here stays here. It does not go out to anyone else. That's absolutely critical. This is part of our strategy and part of our evaluation of the suit, and it needs to stay here. So please, nothing said in this executive session should go anywhere else. So as everybody knows, Cowles and